The unbeaten Eagles fly west to continue their 2022 mediocrity tour in the Valley of the Sun. The NFL is a bell curve with nearly half its teams sitting at 2-2. Isn't parity exciting? Sal Paolantonio and the 4-0 Birds, Gary Myers on TB12, Sean Green has your Eagles Super Bowl odds, and Jigsaw solves all your fantasy puzzles right now on This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
All right. Hello, everyone. Pat Callahan joining you for week number 5 of This Week in Pro Football here on JAKIB Sports and the National Football League. Getting into fall now. We're past the quarter pole in the NFL season, or close to it anyway now with a 17th game added. But there are some things that we can now, I guess, parse at least from the first 4 weeks of the season. And we'll be talking about them throughout this next hour with the usual suspects that I've rounded up. First and foremost being the great Sal Paolantonio joining me in just a few minutes. Gary Myers at the end of the show. I want to talk to him about Tom Brady. Not the divorce stuff. That's not germane to the NFL. Just about the start that Tom's had. We'll have some discussion about that. And then the other two, the younger guys that joined me to talk about odds and prop bets, that being the great Sean Green from SGPN Sports and Tony Cutillo. Will join me to talk about some fantasy football. We'll do that in the bottom of this hour. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. Let's start with what's going on in the standings right now. And I had mentioned in the top about parity. If you look at these standings right now in the NFL, you just see a bunch of 2-2s. 15 of the 32 teams in the league sit at 2-2. Now, look, in and of itself, that's not a terrible thing. But it just speaks to the fact that a giant swath of the National Football League after the first quarter just appears to be the same team. Some teams are jockeying. It's kind of like a Kentucky Derby. You have a 32-team Derby here. Some teams are jockeying. They're going to bust out of the 2-2. But there's a lot of other teams. If you look here, you can see like the entire NFC West sits at 2-2. The Rams lost that game Monday night, so we'll update that. So they're all 2-2. That's an exciting. I don't think there's a great team in that division. There are some good teams, but not great teams. And you look at the AFC South, where Jacksonville's a surprising 2-2. The Titans have fought their way back. The Chargers sit at 2-2. The Broncos 2-2. The Bengals, the Ravens have blown 2 fourth-quarter leads, which prevented them from having a winning record. A lot of perhaps mediocrity is not a fair word, but I think it is. It is a statement on where the NFL stands right now. You have a lot of flawed teams in this league. And right now, 2, I think, stand out amongst all this rubble. And that is, I still say the Buffalo Bills are the clear top team in the AFC. A nice comeback win Sunday in Baltimore when they were down 2 touchdowns against the Ravens. But you just cannot count that guy out. Josh Allen is an absolutely special quarterback. And I think Buffalo, when they meet a good team, they're going to take you right down to the end. When they meet a bad team, they're going to bash your skull in. So I think Buffalo is still going to be a very, very tough out. The NFC, it's funny how I'm almost reluctant to anoint the Eagles as the dominant team in the NFC. I just don't see them right now in the same role that Buffalo, I think, has. The Eagles are very, very good, and they are playing very, very good. And perhaps I'm penalizing them a little bit too much for their schedule. Philadelphia, as I look at my NFL record and fact book here, I mean, the wins over Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, and Jacksonville. Well, the old saying is you can only beat the teams that they put in front of you. And the Eagles are doing that with dispatch. So I don't want to short the Eagles and what they've accomplished. They are clearly a well-rounded, very good team, strong offense, very good defense right now in Philadelphia. But I'm just going to hedge my bet just a little bit until at least a couple of difficult games show up on their schedule. And believe me, there aren't many. So it may end up being a moot point anyway. The Eagles they're not going to run the table, but I think they're in for a heck of a year, especially if they keep up this level of play, certainly. So the NFL, I think you will start to see some people separate themselves, but after the quarter poll right now, it's very even, almost the same number of 3-1 teams as 1-3 teams. Let's see how it sorts itself out. One other comment here before we bring Sal on is there is a Super Bowl hangover. There clearly is. And I'm not talking about the Super Bowl loser. That's its own defined term. The Super Bowl winner. The fact is, in the 55 years of the Super Bowl prior to last year's game, 16 of those 55 teams did not make the playoffs the following year. That's nearly 30%. And I think there's a chance it's going to happen again. Now, the Rams, there's still a lot of time left in the season. I understand that. But Los Angeles has a lot of problems. And it's a fascinating thing how teams that reach the pinnacle in one year just simply can't summon up what is needed to compete to do it again. NFL is just too big a sport. There's too much adulation, and teams pick you off. The Rams have lost half a dozen coaches right now in the league were former Rams assistants. They lost their assistant GM. They lost some frontline players, and it's hard to make up. So, yeah, that Super Bowl hangover is absolutely – if anybody watched the Monday night game, could see that the Rams got a long way to go in the NFC West, certainly, and in the NFC. But an interesting week 5 and not great. We'll get to the schedule in a few minutes, but not a great schedule. But each week goes by now. These games mean something, especially more and more as we get into the season. Xander, let's bring in my colleague, the 30-year host, or 30-year, I should say, analyst with the NFL, with ESPN on NFL, and the 19-year host of the matchup show, that being Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, Pat. Week 5 of the NFL season is really very telling. You know, as you put up those numbers, you know, you look at it, it's a one-score league now. There are 50 games after 4 weeks were one-score games in the fourth quarter. That's an NFL record. So there's a lot of volatility over the course of the offseason, and that created a lot of parity in the National Football League. You have only one unbeaten team in the NFL going into the month of October. That's the first time that's happened since 1996. So off-season volatility has led to parity, and as a result, you have a lot of teams bunched up. And the league is wide open. It is totally wide open.
It is. Well, let me just ask you about that, Sal. You're right. The league is wide open. Do you think that enhances the NFL as a product, or does it perhaps inhibit the NFL as a product? Because you know how fans are. They gravitate to the Yankees. They gravitate to the Cowboys. The Golden State Warriors, whoever the team du jour is. Do you think it helps or hurts the NFL with the teams are so similar?
I think it definitely helps these days. I think maybe 20 years ago, when you didn't have the proliferation of fantasy football or of gambling, you would gravitate towards the big names and the big teams. But now you've got everything stratified so that everybody is betting and playing fantasy football across the league. So I think it's a good thing that there is a lot of parity in the league for sure. And you still have some superstar big name players, Mahomes, Allen, Jalen Hurts. You know, you've still got some teams that have great followings. The Cowboys still have their following, the Packers, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Patriots.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. But I think getting to your point, I kind of agree with you about the Eagles that they're, although they're the only unbeaten team, they're not truly a dominant team that is going to put teams away because they just don't have enough firepower right now in the passing game.
Right.
That has to catch up to the running game.
Right.
And if it does, look out. They've only got Jalen Hurts has only thrown 4 touchdown passes. That's 20th in the NFL, Pat. 3
of them in one game. You're right about that. And sometimes you wonder, like when the Eagles are bashing people and they're comfortably ahead, if he should maybe start working on that passing game a little bit more, especially Sal in the red zone. The Eagles are so good running the ball in the red zone.
Yep.
I mean, their guys are scoring not untouched. They're scoring standing up. I've never seen a team score so many rushing touchdowns without the guy ever landing on the ground. It's an amazing thing, but I'm just thinking in the back of my head is, and maybe I'm being too much of a perfectionist, boy, when you get to crunch time and it's 3rd and goal and there's 15 seconds left and you can't risk a run. Are the Eagles practiced enough to pull it off?
Well, first and foremost, Jalen Hurts has clearly improved as a passer. And their passing game is clearly improved. But they rely on their running game to get themselves out of trouble because it's so good. So they lead the NFL in rushing attempts, and then they lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns as a result. And it all starts with Jason Kelce in the middle. Just go back to that Kenneth Gainwell touchdown against Jacksonville.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, he just demoralizes the middle of that Jacksonville front seven, bulldozes the nose tackle, and then he goes looking for other guys to block. Like, it's like, hey, let's clean up aisle 5. There's a mess on aisle 5. I got to go clean it up, I mean, he is amazing. And considering they lost 2 of their 5 starting offensive linemen in that game, what a tremendous coaching job by Nick Sirianni, Jeff Stoutland, and Shane Steichen. The calls that they made, the setup that they had, it's so dangerous when Jalen Hurts wins out of the pocket because he's a dual threat. But if he is going to run, boy, that opens things up for that running game.
It certainly does. And again, I'll point to my favorite team, my beloved Rams, and then just to point up the difference of what you're saying is that the offensive line of the Eagles and how they dominate, even though they might lose a couple guys, whereas the Rams lose a couple of guys and they look absolutely lost on the offensive line. And if you don't have an offensive line that's pushing that D line back 2 to 3 yards, you're in for a long night. And that's what the Eagles so far have been able to excel at.
Yeah, they've got depth and they've got great coaching. Yeah. So, but it is interesting, Pat. There's been some reverse line movement in this game against the Arizona Cardinals. It started out at 6, now it's 5. Maybe it's the injuries that the Eagles have suffered.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I expect it to be half an Eagles home game. How you mentioned how well the Eagles fans travel. I don't see how Arizona is such a scattershot team. But listen, let me get a break in here, Sal, and let me try and stump Sal again with my trivia question. Which, by the way, thank you very much. I got a lot of response to last week's question. Thank you. I'm going to limit it this time though, because I just want to say that the question sponsored by the good folks at Kennedy Ford. The first person to answer me at TWIPF Pat on Twitter, or you can text the network at JAKIB Sports, is going to win a fabulous This Week in Pro Football t-shirt, not available in stores. The question is this: the last 10 years, not including this year so far, the last 10 years, just name me the player who scored the most touchdowns in the NFL. The last 10 years, 2012 to 2021, who scored, not quarterback passes, who scored the most touchdowns, okay? So everybody shoot me at TWIPF Pat or at JAKIB Sports, all right? When we get back, Sal, I want to talk a little bit more about Jalen Hurts. I want to let's explore that more, and we'll talk more about the blitz and how the Arizona Cardinals are going to come hard at this guy when we come back on This Week in Pro Football.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
For the team at Cordasco Financial Network, a part of Mercer Advisors, financial planning is about more than just managing your money. They guide you in making retirement, tax, insurance, and estate planning decisions by creating a plan based entirely on your individual needs. Plus, Cordasco Financial Network professionals work one-on-one with business owners in creating and managing company 401k plans, IRAs, and defined benefit plans. They can help you maximize plan efficiency, ensure full regulatory compliance, and optimize tax obligations. Call 855-558-3500 or click the link in the description below to learn more. Let their team help you secure your future. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network is a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Andrew Garrett Incorporated, which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences vary. Successful outcomes not guaranteed.
Cantor, Novak, Beaver & Pike is a full-service CPA firm with offices in PA and New Jersey, offering first-rate accounting, audit, and tax services. They focus on helping clients achieve their business and financial goals, from startup operation to long-term financial planning. For more information, call Terry Cantor or Dan Pike at 215-550-2954 or on the web at cnbpcpas.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Welcome back. This week in pro football, Pat Callahan, along with my great friend and a 19-year host of the NFL Matchup Show on ESPN, Sal Paolantonio. Sal, I still got about 80 questions for you, so please be your usual clipped, near British self here. You had mentioned, or we were talking earlier about the Eagles, but I want to get to Jalen Hurts. But the Eagle defense, Sal, they are third in yards allowed, first in turnover differential, and first in sacks. How good is this defense, and how did it become so good seemingly under the radar?
And how about this? Hassan Reddick leads the NFL in strip sacks over the last 4 seasons. How about that? So, there are a lot of things good about this defense. I think it all goes back to the additions of James Bradbury and to Gardner Johnson, the safety that they picked up late in the season. That has just given them confidence on the back end and allowed Jonathan Gannon to basically call whatever he wants to call. And they are still only blitzing at a rate of about 20% of the time, which is 10th lowest in the National Football League. It's not like they are like Arizona leads the NFL in blitzing percentage, over 40%. And, you know, they don't have any of the hardware right now that the Eagles do. So I think the additions of those two players has given Gannon a lot of confidence in what he wants to call. And then they're getting production. I mean, Reddick has really shown flashes. So is Fletcher Cox. Yeah. And, I mean, you watch Jordan Davis. When he's in there, he makes an immediate impact.
Yeah. I agree. And to have only 20% blitz percentage when you lead the league in sacks, that is a powerful way to win football games because you can keep 7 guys in the secondary. And it really helps you. Now, speaking of the secondary now, just give me a word about Kyler Murray. I am not a fan of Kyler Murray as an NFL quarterback. And if you look, Sal, at overthecap.com, it's very interesting how to compare the two quarterbacks. Kyler Murray is going to call the Cardinals will write him $30 million worth of checks this year, while the Eagles will pay Jalen Hurts $1.16 million. Is Kyler Murray a cautionary tale? I mean, the Eagles are looking at a big, I don't want to say problem. They're looking at a big negotiation with Jalen Hurts. But is Murray a cautionary tale about young quarterbacks in the NFL?
No, I don't think so. I think he's mutually exclusive because of a lot of his, built-in deficiencies as a player at the quarterback position. But having said that, all you got to do is go back to that Raiders game. His ability for second reaction plays, either throwing or running, his ability to create space between him and pass rushers, his ability to extend plays and just drive everybody crazy until somebody opens up. Especially in the red zone, it's very scary. Murray can be very scary, and you got to put him away early. If you put him away early, you go up early on the Arizona Cardinals, and you force him to throw the football. It'll be very difficult. I think Reddick is an important component in this game because he's got length and some speed, and they're going to have to corral Murray and make sure that he does not extend plays outside the tackle box.
All right. By the way, Sal Pal presented by the good folks at First Bank. Sal, now a word about the Eagles quarterback. Deserved of the many accolades that have come his way so far this season. But just I've never played a down of quarterback in any type of college or anything, but I'm still going to offer this, Sal. Does it appear to you that in passing situations that Hurts is still very quick to pull the ball down and look for an escape route? And does that concern you at all?
I would say no and no. I think in both cases, Pat, I think he has definitely grown out of that habit. Not completely, for sure. But, listen, you can win football games in many ways in the National Football League. All you got to do is go back and look at the first couple of years of Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger averaged 25 passing attempts a year for his first 2 years.
Right.
Jalen Hurts had 26 pass attempts against Jacksonville.
All right.
The old Dick Vermeil postulate, and we've talked about this on your show, This Week in Pro Football, for years and years and years. Dick Vermeil through John Jaworski drilled this into my head. Take the number of pass completions and the number of rushing attempts and add them up. Rushing attempts plus pass completions. Add those two up. And if you have a greater number than your opponent, you're going to win 90% of the football games. And you look at that game against Jacksonville, and what they did. They had 50 rushing attempts. And what was the number? And they had 16 pass completions. That's 66. If you're over 60, you're going to win a lot of football games.
I'm over 60, so that's for sure. But I tell you that 50 rushing attempts, boy, I tell you that you talk about a recipe to win a football game.
Right.
Is to have that powerful a run game in Philadelphia, and it's really something to see, man.
So you mentioned we talked about where the Eagles are in the stratosphere here. So let's settle it on 3 things. Number one, the old adage is you can only beat who's on the schedule.
Right.
So they're doing that. That's good. If you have a running game travels. If you have a defense travels.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is put too much on your young quarterback while he's developing his game. We've seen that countless times, and we've seen it fail countless times. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right. It's a big, fat mistake when you have a young quarterback. And, Pat, if you look at their schedule, what team in the remaining schedule that the Eagles have would be favored over the Eagles right now?
I don't see one on the horizon, Sal. I really don't. I don't see anybody they play in the AFC, and I don't. the Packers. I think the Eagles are going to be. I think the Eagles will be favored against Green Bay. It's going to be close. I certainly think next week they play Dallas. Right? The Eagles are going to be the favorite against Dallas.
Absolutely, that game is in Philly. Both of those games are in Philly. So if there are some deficiencies, I don't want to leave you with any deficiencies. We're about to wrap up this segment, but if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm looking for another running back. If I'm Howie Roseman, I'm combing the wire to make sure I have offensive linemen. If I'm Howie Roseman, I'm looking for another corner for sure.
Yeah.
So, the running, if you're going to run it 50 times a game, you're going to need running backs.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair to say. All right, listen, we got a minute to go, Sal. Let me just get around the leg with you here, hit you with a couple games. It's not a great schedule this week, but a couple of games of interest. Cincinnati travels to Baltimore for the Sunday night game. The Ravens, tell me psychologically, how deflated are the Ravens going to be? They got to come right back now, play a division opponent that beat them twice last year after another dreadful collapse at home against Buffalo.
Oh, I got Cincinnati all the way in that game. I've watched a lot of those games, and last year I covered both of them. Cincinnati has their number, and Cincinnati's getting better. You watch; they're going to get better, gradually better. Yeah. They have a lot of talent on that team. Yeah. They're going to win. They're going to win that division.
Yeah. Cooper Rush brings his Dallas and his 3-1 Cowboys to Los Angeles to play a Rams team. I said in my open, I think it's really hungover, and I'm not sure any aspirin's going to solve it, Sal. Dallas, but that'll be a home game for the Cowboys too. How do you see this one going?
Pat, the Rams can't block anybody.
Yeah.
They just
Other than
can't.
that, they're pretty good.
I mean, you mentioned it. Whitworth is gone.
Yep.
They can't block anybody.
Yep.
They don't have balance on offense.
Yep.
They couldn't block the Niners, and the Cowboys have a better pass rush than the Niners. They just do.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I know you know me well enough, but I go back 2 years ago, Sal. The Rams, of course, didn't have a first-round pick. Time for their pick in the second round. Creed Humphrey is sitting there. And the Rams pass him for someone named Tutu Atwell, a 149-pound wide receiver who was inactive for Monday night's game, while Humphrey is an all-pro. You just can't make mistakes like that. That's the way of it.
Well, they got their Super Bowl, Pat. They got their Lombardi Trophy.
Fair enough. You got me through that game. So
I don't see him going very far this year right now.
All right, listen, Sal, that was a great segment. I appreciate it very much. It was great having you on. Where are you this weekend, by the way?
I am doing the call on ESPN radio with Steve Levy doing the play-by-play. I'm the analyst in the booth for Dolphins at the Jets at MetLife Stadium.
Pal. Good for you. We'll see if the Jets sitting at 2-2. How about the advent of New York football? Who would have thought that, Sal?
It's always good for the league if New York's got.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I look forward to your call of that game and look forward to talking to you again, Sal, very soon here on This Week in Pro Football. All right, that was the great Sal Paolantonio. All right, when we get back, Sean Green's going to join me, and we're going to talk about some odds, some props, and where the Eagles now stand in the eyes of Vegas relative to the Super Bowl. That's next on This Week in Pro Football.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at whistlerpearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@whistpearl.com. whistlerpearlstein.com or mod@whistpearl.com.
It was late at night. I was browsing kennedyauto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. kennedyauto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. kennedyauto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Welcome back. This week in pro football, Pat Callahan joining you, week number 5 in the National Football League. Don't forget my trivia question is out there, folks. You can find me at TWIPF Pat. Please give me a follow. And you can follow the station, the network at JAKIB Sports. My question was, which I know would totally stump the great Sean Green from Bet SGPN Sports, is to name me the player over the last 10 years who scored the most touchdowns. So let's bring him up here. Welcome to Sean Green from Bet SGPN and the Sports Betting Podcast. Sean, how you doing?
Doing great. How you doing, Pat?
All right. I see you're all decked out in your green. You're probably in the parking lot already in Arizona. I understand you're going to the game this weekend.
Yeah, about to take a flight from based out of LA here, but about to hop on a Southwest flight from Burbank to Arizona, and then me and my buddies going to be going to the game, so looking forward to it.
Based in LA. You watch that game Monday night, my team got smashed.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to fathom how all they got to see is that 49er helmet and their eyes just glaze over. It's the most amazing thing, Sean, but that's enough of that talk. Let's deal more with the home team here. I was talking with Sal Pao about the fact that the Eagles are are they the dominant team in the NFC, where the way I see Buffalo as a dominant team in the AFC, and yet people tend to hedge their bet. Even I do. Are the Eagles really that good? How does the smart money see them, and what would the odds be right now on the Eagles going to and winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah, right now they're about 7 or 8 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. I think for them to win the conference, it's like 3 to 1.
Wow.
I mean, the Eagles were definitely a fun bet to get in the offseason when you can get them to win the Super Bowl at 20, 25 to 1. Same with Jalen Hurts MVP stuff. But now to bet it now, I think I never like betting these small future bets because so many things have to go right between now and when the Super Bowl even happens, right? Like 13 regular season games, injuries, the playoffs. Honestly, to get to 8-1, you're probably just better off just betting every Eagles playoff game and just kind of rolling it over that way and taking them as a future bet.
I agree. And it's not so much everything going right as much it is avoiding something going wrong. All you need to see is one key guy grabbing his knee at some point, and you're right. And the whole thing changes. Usually the team that ends up winning the Lombardi is a team that escapes that kind of, everybody trooping over to injured reserve. The team that stays the healthiest and keeps especially their offensive line intact, they seem to go the furthest. Yeah. So, all right, Sean, let me take a look at week number 5 here. Xander, maybe you can bring that schedule up for me, and Sean and I can take a look at it here, and he can tell me. I'm not going to say a word about what I like. I'm going to leave it to the expert here on the sports betting podcast. That would be Sean Green. Everybody check that out, by the way. It's an excellent website and podcast. All right, Sean, tell me who you like here. What are you looking at? And throw in any props, too, that you like this week.
Sure. Starting off, I really like Miami laying 3 points at the New York Jets. I'm sure it's going to be a popular play, but, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is just great against the spread. 44-20-1 ATS. They call him Teddy Covers for a reason. He's also 24-6 against the spread on the road. Zach Wilson really struggles with the blitz, and that's what the Dolphins do best. So and for whatever reason, the Jets have, they got their 2 wins on the road. They haven't been playing as well at home. So yeah, give me the Dolphins laying 3.
All right. Teddy Covers. I did not know that was his nickname.
Oh yeah. Fun little nickname for him.
All right. What else you got?
I'm seeing the Seattle Seahawks. You can get up to 6 points with the Seahawks. So I like that. Again, like for me, this is just kind of a fade of the Saints. I get the Saints, probably not as bad as the record shows, but Andy Dalton as a 6-point road favorite, as a 6-point favorite, I think is a little generous. And Seattle, they're just able to move the ball. Like Geno Smith is playing at a really high level. Saints right now have a -7 turnover differential. I think that's going to be the biggest difference right there. And you look at the Saints point differential, right? Like they're 1-3 and their one win came by 1 point. So the Saints team does feel a little bit cursed, and whatever it is, I like the little mojo the Seahawks have going. So I'm going to take the Seahawks and 6 points.
How about Geno Smith, a 77% completion percentage? Now, if I had said that to you after 5 weeks' time, Sean, how much cash would you have laid down on that?
Well,
it's amazing. The guy, you can't argue it. Now, they feasted on Detroit last week. The Lions defense might be all world bad. But still, you can't argue the fact that Smith has basically saved, just as Cooper Rush has done in Dallas, Smith has saved Seattle's season in terms of fan interest.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And yeah, I mean, he actually, those like daily fantasy long shot deals. He won someone $1 million. So,
oh my God.
Geno Smith's probably only making $1 million this year, and some guy playing fantasy is making the same as Geno Smith. So
they owed Geno. Actually, he's making $3.5 million, Sean. I just looked it up.
Sorry.
So, there you go.
Didn't mean to short him.
All right, and your last one for this week?
Yeah, this one's an interesting game. And again, I'm fading this Ravens team. I'm taking the Bengals plus 3.5. You can find in a lot of spots. The Bengals are able to throw the ball on the Ravens last year. They showed that. I think they're going to be able to do that again. And just something seems a little bit off with this Ravens team, little dissension in the locker room. And meanwhile, the Bengals coming off the long rest there, I think they're going to be able to put up some points against the Ravens. I'll take them plus 3.5. And the Ravens have been great in the first half. They just really struggle to close out games. They just can't do it.
And I don't like that Ravens secondary against the firepower that Cincinnati brings in a passing offense. So I like Cincinnati too, Sean. I'm sorry. So that's a loss. But you know who else I'm taking though this week? And tell me what your thoughts are about this one. That's a lot of points. But Buffalo minus 14, I don't like it. This kid's first start couldn't be in a worse place than Buffalo against a team that Sean, I think, wants to kill you. That's being the Buffalo Bills. They have no sympathy. They have no thoughts have ever taken their foot off the gas. I see this as a very long day for the Steelers. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess I would actually go the other side there. I would take the Steelers plus the points. The logic being, double-digit dogs in the NFL are, or especially of this magnitude, usually the value is on the team catching that many points. I see what you're saying about the defense. I guess I'm also slightly concerned that the Bills might take the foot off the gas. They have the Chiefs coming up next week. So, they've had that Chiefs game circled for a long time. Yeah. And that actually gets me to one of my prop bets. I think one of the prop bets I really like is George Pickens, the receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like his over 37.5. He had a really good game catching the ball, and it seems like he's one of Kenny Pickett's favorite targets. And at 37.5, like if they're getting blown out, he can get it in garbage time.
Or if you're right.
Or if they just get off to a good start, I think he could get it there.
I guess they spent all summer throwing to each other, or throwing and catching, that is, right? Because they were both the second string. But I think that's a great number. The last one I like, Sean, is Dallas plus the 5. I think it's a big number for the Cowboys to be getting because it's going to be a home game. They're going to have more fans there than the Rams will. They have their defense. I think their front four is going to get there all day against Matt Stafford. The Rams have some serious problems on their offensive line. I like Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rocking all this Eagles stuff. I'm not gonna pick Dallas, but I think you're right because again, like what have the Rams struggled with the most is edge pass rush, and unfortunately, Micah Parsons could have a field day against this Rams team that Matt Stafford just keeps turning the ball over. Fumbling's been an issue for him. It seems like Cooper Kupp's the only guy they can get going right now.
Yeah.
I guess if as a Rams fan, Pat, I would be optimistic of, is Cooper Rush really going to start 5-0 straight up and 5-0 against the spread?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Have going for you.
It reminds you of Earl Morrall with the 72 Dolphins.
Yeah,
he's just coming in. He just methodically wins games. It's not like he's slinging it all over the place.
He plays clean game, and their defense. Again, I hate to compliment the Cowboys, but I thought their defense would fall off a little bit. Some of their numbers seemed like prime for aggression if you follow like the advanced analytics stuff. But man, their defense has played really, really well, and Cooper Rush has just steadied the ship. So yeah.
Well, next week, Sean, the Cowboys come to Philadelphia. So maybe we'll spend a majority part of the segment next week talking about the various betting machinations that are available in that game and get your thoughts on how you think that game is going to play out when the Cowboys come to Philadelphia. It's always a highlight on the home schedule, if not the highlight. The Cowboys come to Philadelphia. So, all right, tell me what else you're working on there and where do people find Sean Green and what kind of podcast can they look up on you?
Yeah, just check us out. Sports Gambling Podcast, wherever you download your podcasts. We pick every NFL game against the spread. We also pick, like 13, 14 college football games against the spread, do a bunch of fantasy and prop stuff as well. So Sports Gambling Podcast, put it in your podcast app. You can't miss us.
All right. I appreciate it very much. Have a good time down in Arizona. I think you're going to see another W for Philadelphia. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't go that way.
Knock on wood. Go Birds.
Yep. And I look forward to talking to you next week, Sean. All right. That's a great Sean Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast joining me every week. And when we get back, it's my arch nemesis, the Charles Manson of fantasy football, that being Tony Jigsaw Cutillo. Let's talk some fantasy football next on This Week in Pro Football.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
Pat Callahan back here on This Week in Pro Football, week number 5 in the National Football League. Sean Green was presented by the good folks at UGI. And let me get this guy up here. It was presented by the great folks at Concrete Cutting Systems. And that would be my arch nemesis, Tony Cutillo. Tony, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing good. You should be doing good. Your boy Austin Eckler went off last week.
He did.
Is that why you got the suit on this week?
Austin Eckler went off. The rest of my team took off. Is the problem, Tony, because I Lamar Jackson going, and it's just, I mean, he goes down the field. He's down the field. What are your thoughts? I know it's not really a fantasy thing, but just as a football fan, how is it on 4th and goal from the 3-yard line in a 2020 game, you don't kick the field goal?
Yeah, I'm really surprised. But I mean, that's been Harbaugh's MO, man. I mean,
Right.
he says, "Hey, Lamar, what do you want to do with it?" And Lamar says, "Go, they go." So, I mean,
Lamar,
I'm not shocked.
He missed a wide open Duvernay in the corner of the end zone.
Yes,
so,
he did.
That's a shame. He was way too late getting him the ball. But let me start, Tony, with before we get to your jigsaws here, but because you've been absolutely on fire with them, I will grant you that 100%. I hope everybody is listening to this guy because he's giving you some gold. How about, are you taking a flyer this week on Teddy Bridgewater?
I can't trust Teddy Two Gloves, man. I can't. He came in, he didn't look great. He looked a little off, obviously, and rightfully so. But I need to see a little more. I mean, this isn't like the Geno Smith 2.0 this year. You know what I mean? Teddy's just going to be a game manager. So I'm going to fade Teddy for this week. Maybe the following week if he looks okay, maybe. But for this week, now I'm going to pass.
You mentioned Geno Smith. I was talking with Sean Green about him. What a revelation he has been. A guy whose career was absolutely just a smoldering ruin. And he has completely reinvented himself. I mentioned to Sean, 77% completion percentage, feasted on the Detroit Lions last week.
It's unheard of. I mean, I heard a couple people talk about MVP kind of talk for Geno Smith.
Oh my God.
I mean, let's not get carried away, but I mean, but it is not. Listen, this is all Pete Carroll, man. Pete Carroll knows what he has. He knows how to get the best out of his players, and Geno's just rolling that offense along, man. He's getting confidence every week.
Tony, is this a good week, in your opinion, to sit your Rams, Steelers, and or Patriots? I'm concerned anybody who has players on any of those three teams up against very good defenses, and the Patriots now, Brian Hoyer out 4 to 6 weeks. who the hell's playing quarterback for the New England Patriots this week?
Yeah, that's that. Listen, your team is going to go as far as your fantasy quarterback, right? And what I mean by that is everybody's your fantasy quarterback when you have a receiver or a run back on that team, right? So,
Right.
you mentioned Pittsburgh. I'll tell you, man, that's what they did with Kenny Pickett. The only thing you could hope with Kenny Pickett is he's just going to rush the ball in, and it doesn't bode well for guys like Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. It bodes well for George Pickens, though, because the young guy, and I think he's going to latch onto that. So, and a guy like Freiermuth, if you're a tight end owner, if you got Freiermuth, I think you're a good company because he's going to get a lot of love.
Freiermuth's been a disappointment so far this year, but the Steelers' offense as a whole. I drafted Deontay Johnson, and he missed a TD last week by just about a half.
Did you see that? I was thinking of you when he caught that. I was like, oh, we got it. And then he's one toe.
We didn't, Tony. He goes, I played him. That's why. And then I see I played AJ Brown. He's going in for a touchdown. They call this absolutely ridiculous OPI on Dallas.
They're calling that a lot lately. It's getting out of hand now. It's like, what's going on? Do they need a name for themselves, these referees or something? Because that pick play that they're calling every now and then is.
I know. You're right. Too far. You're right. It's obviously been a point of emphasis with the league. But, I mean, come on. That doesn't mean you fabricate it. It just means you look for it. That's
I mean, Devontae Smith was trying to get out of the way. I mean, he wasn't even doing anything. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
All right, let's give me some jigsaws here, Tony. You've been pretty damn good with them. Let's see what you got this week. Who you liking?
Well, like you say, Pat, anybody can pick the studs, right? It's about picking those gems. So,
almost anybody.
So if anybody out there plays DFS and daily fantasy, even in season long, Tom Brady, this is the Tom Brady week for me. I said Russell Wilson last week, and this is my Tom Brady week. He's going up against Atlanta, who really can't stop anybody. He's at home. The whole divorce thing's out of control now. It's all out there. It's out in the open. We're good. Tom's back this week. $6,000 on DFS. I think you throw him in there. And I'll give you 4 really low-cost pieces. Let's go KJ Osborne from Minnesota. Going up against Chicago at home in the Dome. Thielen's a little banged up, even though he's consistent. They're going to lock in on Justin Jefferson, so Osborne gets some looks. Logan Thomas, tight end from the Washington Commanders at home against Tennessee, who has an issue. He's only 3,200 DFS. He's going to be Carson Wentz's big target this week. And this is going to be the Gabe Davis week. Everybody's waiting. Gabe Davis, he's been hurt. Okay, he's finally starting to get healthy. This is going to be the Gabe Davis week. And if you're looking for a big-time flyer, Pat, you go Kyle Phillips, the Tennessee Titans. Guess what? Robert Woods is their guy. Burks is going to be out. So Phillips is going to be that guy that picks up some of that slack.
Yeah, Gabe Davis is ADP, Tony. In most drafts, he was drafted pretty high, just based on that AFC Championship game last year. And
but he got hurt in training camp. Right. He hurt his ankle. And it was a in practice, not training camp. It was a non-contact injury. And Pat, we go through this. If you get a high ankle sprain, it takes forever for those things to heal. So he needs that. He's starting to get healthy. So I think we'll start to see the old Gabe real soon.
I was hoping, Tony, against all hope, that the jigsaw performers would include Allen Robinson.
I can't, Pat. I can't. I'm done with A-Rob. Like, I don't know.
Throw him
He's
in there.
Happy to be a blocker now. All of a sudden.
Shoehorn him in there and just say, I don't know. His over-under, I think, is 1.5 catches for 9 yards. It's unbelievable.
Think about that.
$45 million.
Think about it. Well, over 1.5 catches. This guy. We just had a guy on Thursday night named Ashton Dolan, who's over and a half was 1.5 catches. And he's in the same category as A-Rob. That's how bad it is.
I know. It's an amazing thing. I don't know. It's he's printing money, stealing money right now.
I don't know, man. Chase Daniel's the biggest stealer.
That's it. But the Chase Daniels, you don't want to be mentioned along with Chase Daniels when it comes to that stuff. That's not going to go well. All right, listen, Tony. Where do people? I know find you all over the place, but where do people find you this weekend? Any last minute things? Where can they find the jigsaw?
Yeah, so it gets me Saturday on Sirius. We got Jigsaw Hour, probably like 7, 8 on the Win Daily Show. You catch it at Win Daily Sports for the showdown lineups on Sunday night for Sunday Night Football, and obviously the Final Judgment. I judge Jigsaw every Monday and Thursday nights at 10:00.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on again. I've got all these names written down. If I see Kyle Phillips going into the end zone, I just want to say there's something mythical going on here. I'll
you
keep
never know, man. You never know.
All right, Tony. We'll talk to you next week, pal. Thanks very much.
All right, see you, Pat.
All right, Tony Cutillo joining me here talking some fantasy football. We all suffer through our fantasy football teams, don't we? It's one of those things where it seemed like a good idea when you joined the league, right? All right, listen, when we get back, we're going to get back to the NFL itself. We're going to talk with the great Gary Myers. We're going to talk about Tom Brady, not the divorce stuff. We're going to talk about Tom's on the field play and go around the league and talk some football with Gary when we come back on This Week in Pro Football.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Welcome back This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan here. Week number 5 in the National Football League. Don't forget to give me a follow on Twitter at TWIPF Pat. Follow the network at JAKIB Sports. And you ought to follow this guy too, a longtime prolific author on the National Football League, and a writer for the Dallas Morning News, the New York Daily News. That'd be the great Gary Myers. Gary, how you doing?
Pat, you look all dressed up tonight.
Well, I mean, yeah, when I have this kind of a guest list, including someone like you, I mean, you gotta represent, Gary. You can't come up here looking like Ralph Cramden.
I'm very impressive. I knew that I would have put a sport jacket on myself.
All right, well, listen, Gary, let's talk some serious NFL here. And what I wanted to spend a minute on was Tom Brady. And I know, and I've said now a few times on this program, is I'm not going to talk about his personal situation. What I wanted to lead off with you on is, whether or not you think maybe Tom made a mistake when he unretired and he came back. Not that he looks disinterested. It's just that it's just looking a lot harder for him in the first weeks of the year, especially the last 2 weeks, than it has in the past. Do you think Tom is still as motivated as he's been in the past?
Well, that's a lot. That's a big question with a lot of different layers to it. I think the struggles that the Bucs are having are kind of indicative of what's going on around the league. And, we've talked about, you and I have talked about in the past that, the scaled back training camps, no more two-a-days, limited days with pads. And Tom took 11 days off. Then his receivers were injured. I think they missed a bunch of them missed game 3, and Mike Evans was suspended for that game. I think everybody's just getting off to a slow start. You look at Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't look real comfortable right now. And, all his receivers, at least with Devontae Adams, he's not there anymore, and he's got a lot of young guys. So, right now, the Bucs look at a sink. They gave up a lot of points defensively. They had trouble moving the ball for most of the game against the Chiefs. But I don't, just from a football point of view, I don't think we can answer that question yet, just because it's so early. Right. Now, if Tom didn't make the initial decision to retire, and I think he was pressured into that, maybe there's some family concerns that pressured him into it. Maybe the fact that ESPN broke the story, and then he came out and made it official 2 days later.
Right.
And then unretired 40 days later. Perhaps if nothing happened until it had to happen, which would have been right before free agency, he might have retired.
Right.
But I just think there's a lot of different pressures on him at that point, and he obviously went back and forth. And I can't say that he regrets it. I haven't spoken to him, and I know you didn't want to get into his personal situation, but if some of the things that have been reported upon, which I have no personal knowledge of what's going on with him, but if it's leading to family problems, would he have retired just to avoid that part of it? Right. And the answer might have been yes.
Yeah. Gary, you wrote the book, Brady versus Manning. You spent a lot of time with Tom Brady. Right. And what came across in the book is he's very introspective, and he keeps his own counsel, I guess is a good way to put it. But he's still clearly the leader of that team. You see, though, we still got obviously 13 games to go, that there's plenty of time for Tampa Bay to correct all the things that are going on with them.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of problems on that team. The offensive line has been hurt by injury and retirement. Like we mentioned, Mike Evans missed that one game.
Right.
But I think otherwise he's been healthy. Julio Jones has been hurt. Chris Godwin come back from the ACL. Then he suffered a different injury in week 1. Now he's back. Yeah. There's 3 months to go to the season, and they're still the best team in the NFC South. And if you remember Brady's first year in Tampa, I believe they were 7-5, and then won their last 4 regular season games and all 4 games in the playoffs. So they got hot at the right time. They peaked at the right time.
Right.
And boy, we're only in the first week of October, so there's plenty of time. They just have to stay healthy and get their offensive line healthy.
Gary, I started the show talking about, and you kind of mentioned it too at the outset of this segment, how the league, I mentioned the NFL now, it's almost a perfect bell curve. 1 undefeated team, 1 winless team, 8 3-1 teams, 7 1-3 teams, and then 15 2-2 teams. It seems as though a lot of teams are just jockeying around, just as you're saying, just finishing up the preseason and trying to get to the rail. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that the month of September is really become an extension of the preseason, that teams are figuring out who they are, what they do best. There's such a big turnover in personnel every year that the units on the team that need to be coordinated well, which obviously you put the offensive line at the top of that list, these guys are just learning to play with each other. I'm not sure that the changes that were made in the 2011 collective bargaining agreement, just in terms of the intensity of the practices, and then even more modifications that were made in 2020 when it came to the off-season program.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, it's probably good physically for these players, but I'm not sure as far as the quality of the football and teams hitting the ground running. I don't think it's helped at all.
Yeah. And you wonder too, Gary, and I'd like somebody, if we could do this empirically, with these kind of changes, has it in fact shortened the injury list? Has it lessened the degree of severity of injuries that these teams are sustaining? I wonder if that's the case.
Well, you look at, without reciting the list, but when you look at the injuries every week and players being lost for the season, and I honestly, I don't see any difference.
I don't. I mean, when you see a Sterling Shepard just jogging down the field, and all of a sudden, 5 seconds later, he's out for the season, you just wonder if there's any way to legislate against the kind of injuries that happen in the NFL.
Well, and that raises a whole different issue also, Pat, is artificial turf versus grass field, and whether Shepard's injury had anything to do with that. When he tore his Achilles in December last year, it was a non-contact injury as well. You wonder, like, it's just say at MetLife Stadium, they have 2 teams, and they tried the grass system in the early 2000s. It was called the tray system, where they had it was like maybe 4 feet by 4 feet or something like that the trays would actually fit into the field, so that if an area of the field went bad, they can just replace it with a different tray. Right. And it was a complete disaster. I mean, complete disaster. Yeah. And they're convinced they can't keep grass in a playable format, condition rather, through a football season. But in Baltimore still has grass, I believe.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And not that far from New York, so I don't know.
I don't know. You're right. It's something. I think the NFLPA is going to get much more vocal about that. Gary, let me ask you.
And one other thing, Pat. In Philadelphia, they have painted grass, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Painted dirt.
That's right. That's right. Yes. All right, Gary, you look around the league after we hit the quarter pole. Tell me about some surprises, some things that you're pleasantly surprised at, some things that you're disappointed in so far amongst the NFL teams.
Well, one of the surprises you hit on about 5 minutes ago is just, to me, one undefeated team after 4 weeks.
Right.
I haven't done the research to find out the last time that happened, but usually you reach the first week in October, you have at least 2 or 3 teams left that haven't lost a game. And when Miami lost in Cincinnati last week, and then Philadelphia won the other day against Jacksonville, it left just the Eagles. Now, I know people in Philadelphia are really passionate about their team, but if you were to say, on the eve of the start of this season, pick one team that's going to be undefeated after 4 weeks, you probably wouldn't have said the Eagles.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I think Jalen Hurts, to me, is one of the big surprises, because I was one of those who felt, after watching him for the first couple of years, that he just didn't throw it well enough to be a quarterback that can lead his team deep into the playoffs. But from what I've seen the first 4 weeks, I'm wrong. I mean, he's got 2 dynamic receivers. He's getting the ball to them. They're scoring a lot of points, and their defense is playing pretty well. So I put the Eagles at the top of the list. And I'd say every other team, not every other team, 20 or so other teams are all disappointments because they're either at 500 or at 1-3, like you're saying.
Right. And, so it's really going to be interesting to see how October how I use the horse racing term, get to the rail. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams now start to jockey and get themselves into some sort of position. But you're right. There's a lot of teams. I mentioned the Rams earlier in the show.
I was going to say the Rams. They look like a train wreck.
They look like a Super Bowl champion, don't they? That's what they look like.
The whole team, offensively at least, is Matthew Stafford trying to force the ball to Cooper Kupp.
That's it.
He has nobody else. Each week that they play, Odell Beckham's price tag goes up.
That's true.
To return to the Rams.
All right, Gary, one other question I wanted to ask you. And what struck me is watching San Francisco and the way defensively they dominated Los Angeles on Monday night, watching the Cowboys front four wreak havoc the way they do, Buffalo, and how tough that defense is. there's not that many great defenses in the league anymore because the league has legislated so much in terms of the offense. But just would you say how important is a top 5 defense, say, relative to having a top 5 quarterback? If you're a GM, which one are you opting for?
Can I have both?
No, Gary. No, you could have Daniel Jones and the Buffalo defense, or you could have Josh Allen and the Detroit Lions defense. Which one are you taking?
Boy, that's a tough choice.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, if you put it that way, I think you could win with Daniel Jones and the Buffalo defense.
Right.
I'm not sure you can win with Josh Allen and the Lions defense.
Yeah.
But in this era of pass-happy football where all the rules have favored the offense, and if you can't throw the ball, you can't win, the quarterback is just essential to success. And see, I'm one of the few people, I'm still of the belief that given an offensive line and weapons, that Daniel Jones could be pretty good. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He throws the ball really well.
Yeah.
He is an excellent athlete. I mean, we saw on those 2 touchdowns.
He made 2 great decisions on those when he kept the ball there. No question about it.
Yeah, but I'd settle for Josh Allen and the Bills defense together, which is what they have, and now we'll see whether they can turn it into a Super Bowl.
Right.
But I will say this other thing: the 85 Bears, the 86 Giants, the 2000 Ravens. Those are the 3 defenses of, say, the Super Bowl era, or even narrow it down from the 80s on. Those are the 3 defenses that really stand out. Phil Simms was an underrated quarterback, but he wasn't elite. Jim McMahon was fun to be around, but that was about it. And Trent Dilfer, they won despite Trent Dilfer. Simms of those 3 was by far the best quarterback, and he could have won with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But he wasn't Elway, he wasn't Marino, guys of that nature. So I think in those times when they're only throwing the ball 25 times a game, you can win with an elite defense without having a quarterback throw like Marino.
Right.
I'm just not sure now the game is built that way.
I would say you're right. Probably the odds are stacked against it, but I'll shrink it down even further.
Okay.
If you have a front 4 that can consistently get to the quarterback, and this year I think there's 3 teams that could do it. And that's San Francisco, if they stay healthy, Dallas, and I think Buffalo also. Maybe if there's any other teams you could throw in, but if those teams, if you can get there to that quarterback with just 4, you're going to win a lot of games because you are going to be able to prevent the kind of passing success that is so prevalent right now in the NFL.
Yeah, and you combine that with the fact that, I mean, tell me what the great offensive lines are now.
Yeah.
And, the Rams offensive line is not the one that won the Super Bowl.
That's correct. The great offensive line, for instance, Philadelphia. Philadelphia is their offensive line is playing terrific football
right
now. And lo and behold, they're 4-0.
Yeah, so the 49ers pass rush against the Rams the other night looked unstoppable. Yeah. But who was trying to block them?
I know.
I didn't even know who half those guys were. And so, I mean, that's a key to it, too, is that the defensive lines, the great defensive lines, how often are they playing against a great offensive line so they can be even more dominant than you're suggesting?
Yeah. Well, Gary, listen, we joked at the outset of this season how long a year it was going to be in New York. Lo and behold, the 3-1 Giants, the 2-2 Jets. We're going to have to spend some time talking about that. I think, depending upon what success they might. I don't see success for either team this weekend, but certainly a little bit of a resurgence in New York football, one that I didn't see coming.
Well, what's interesting, Pat, is that the Jets are 2-2, and they've lost both games at home, and they had quality road victories in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Right. Each game they trailed by 10 or more in the fourth quarter and came back to win.
With 2 different quarterbacks.
Zach Wilson looked really good in the fourth quarter last week.
Yeah.
I will say this. I will not be shocked if they beat the Dolphins on Sunday with Teddy Bridgewater, although the times I've seen Bridgewater go into game as a starter, I believe it was last year when he was in Denver that Was it last year in Denver? All these years run together.
I know. He was in New Orleans, too. I don't know which the chronology.
Yeah, he played a really good game against the Giants at MetLife, and he played a really good game early in the season. I think it was last year. It was last year. He played a really good game early in the season in Dallas against the Cowboys, and Denver won both of those games. So I think he is capable with the right coaching to put together a pretty good string of games. And Mike McDaniel might not be so good at figuring out players' injuries, but he is pretty good at figuring out defenses.
Yeah.
And as far as the Giants, they're on their way to London to play the Packers on what will be, Sunday morning here.
Right.
And if they were to beat the Packers, although this is not the same Packers team, if you watch them against the Patriots.
No, if you watch them against the Patriots, they were lucky to win that game. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if the Giants were to get this game and start off the season 4-1, I mean, that's about the number of victories they had each of the last four or 5 years.
That's right.
You got to start believing a little bit. But
I think it's good. I think it's good for the league when New York football is
absolutely.
relevant. I think it's pretty important, and I just feel much better for the long-suffering fans in New York. They deserve something to cheer about. They sure as hell haven't had a lot of it.
No, there hasn't been much.
Well, listen, Gary Myers, I appreciate you taking all this time. It's always great having you on.
Yes, sir.
And I know you're writing writing another book. I can't wait for that to come out. Everybody check out Gary's past books, Brady versus Manning. How about them Cowboys? A big seller in Philadelphia, no doubt. Gary.
Yes, and I know you were lined up to buy many copies.
I did buy.
You can see my desk around here. I moved into our dining room because I have all these papers for writing this book. My desk wasn't big enough, and I have a big desk. So now I have the dining room table.
Yeah.
And
maybe next week, the Cowboys are coming to Philadelphia. We'll spend a few minutes talking about Jerry Jones and some insights you might have on that.
That'll be great.
It'll be fun to do. Appreciate it very much, Gary. We'll talk to you next week. All right.
Okay, Pat. Take care.
All right. That's Gary Myers, ladies and gentlemen, joining me. And that's going to do it for this week in week number 5 on This Week in Pro Football. As I said, not a great week coming up this week. I don't think a lot of great games. Your TV games, Sunday night, Cincinnati, Baltimore. I think that's a good game. And that will keep your attention. Monday night, the Chiefs are just going to punch the Raiders right in the face. I don't see much of a game there on Monday night. But still, we'll have a lot to talk about next week. The Cowboys come to Philadelphia. Always a lot to talk about when Dallas and Philadelphia get together. And we will do it next week on This Week in Pro Football.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free 1-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.club.com for more information.